Hey guys, Sergeant First Class Bites here. As you can imagine, infantry school is going to be difficult and you're going to face some challenges that are unexpected, unique, that you've never dealt with before. In this video, I'm going to recall some of those challenges that I personally had. Stay tuned. So as you're growing up, you start to think about different career options, and I think a lot of people just disregard the military because they know it's going to be difficult. Like if you visualize in your head what the military is like and you're not in, or you don't know somebody that's in, so you just are kind of creating what it is in your head, you're probably thinking, damn, that's just a rough life. It's rugged, living in the woods. I don't want to kill people. I don't want to go to war. I don't want to fight somebody else's fight. There's just a lot of different things that you'll think about. So to be completely honest, I never even thought about joining the military until September 11th. Before that, it was just something that I didn't even consider. Once September 11th happened, I thought, oh shit, like our country's been attacked. I'm the perfect candidate for this. So I decided to step up and join. One of these days I want to go through and tell you how my enlistment process went because it's very unique, but we'll kind of bypass that today and just move on to the point of the video. So prior to September 11th, I really didn't think about joining the military at all. Then September 11th happened and it fucking made me sick. So I decided, hey, I gotta do something. So crazy me, I decided I'm going to join as an infantryman because in my mind, I want to be the person that takes the fight to the people that brought the fight here to the United States. Little did I know what a difficult life I was going to live. Now don't get me wrong, my time in the military has been fucking great, amazing, but it's been difficult at the same time. If you heard some of my stories in the past, you can just tell that times have been difficult. I've been through a lot of shit, but there's a lot more to come on this channel that I'm going to tell you about. Different situations, missions, Battle of Checkpoint 514, there's a lot to come. But let's start off at basic training. So I'm going through OSUT, one-stop unit training, which is infantry training. A couple combat MOSs also have OSUT training where you go to basic training and advanced training at the same location and it's just one long training cycle. So I'm going through infantry school and it's tough. My bunkmate, his name is Jason Banks. Shout out to Banks. Banks was my bunkmate and me and him became real cool. Me and Banks pretty much did everything together while we were going through infantry school. Not only was Banks my homeboy, is my homeboy, but he became very close to my family as well. He literally made trips to see my family in Florida when we had Christmas break. Christmas Exodus is what we call it. He actually went to Florida with me, seen my parents, built a relationship with them, and he's got a good relationship with my family today. So we go out for a field training exercise. Remember, I'm at Fort Benning. It's winter time. It's freezing cold. We're getting hit by rain, so on and so forth. So this one specific day, we're out in the field, we're training, and it's raining. So we're getting wet. It's cold outside, and after a couple hours of training goes by, my jaw actually hurts from just like shivering and like tightening my jaw, kind of having like lockjaw just from being so cold. My body's hurting from just like tensing up so much from being cold. So it's raining, it's freezing outside, we're training, I'm starting to feel kind of sick, and all I can think about is getting done with training and getting into my sleeping bag and just fucking getting warm. So we literally train all day, then we train halfway through the night. By this time we've probably trained for like 12 hours. I'm fucking freezing, my body hurts, my body aches, my feet hurt, and all I want to do is get in my sleeping bag. Alright, so the drill sergeants release us. We head back to our rucksacks. We're planning on sleeping on the ground. We don't have enough time to actually set up a shelter half. It's too cold, we're too tired, we're too beat. So we get back to our rucksacks, me and Banks. I open my rucksack up and realize that I never put my sleeping bag in a wet weather bag, so it's fucking soaked and it literally has frost on it. It's icy because I didn't put it in a wet weather bag and it had rained all day. So I'm fucking panicking. I'm like, this is the worst thing that could fucking ever happen. I'm literally hurting so bad from freezing for so many hours. My body aches. All I want to do is get in my sleeping bag and lay down, and I'm completely fucked. So yeah, no lie, by this point, I'm actually feeling sick. I don't know what to do. I don't want to tell my drill sergeants that I didn't put my sleeping bag in a wet weather bag because they're going to be like, bro, that's your fucking problem. Basically, by doing that, I'd be throwing myself under the bus. So Banks hears the commotion and hears me cussing and fucking pitching a fit, and he's like, bro, what's going on? And I'm like, man, I did not put my sleeping bag in a wet weather bag. You know, since it's been raining, my shit is just frozen. So Banks looks at me and said, we're battle buddies, right? I got you, bro. Banks goes, bro, I got enough room in my sleeping bag for the both of us. And I was like, yo, bro, what? And he was like, hey, bro, you're fucking freezing. I'm fucking freezing. You're gonna die out here if you don't get in a fucking sleeping bag with me. So you know what, bro? I had to do what I had to do. And you know, we slept back to back and shit like that. We did what we had to do, but man, Banks looked out for me big time, because if I wouldn't have had him, I'd have been fucked. So battle buddies are super important. Building those relationships with people in the military, he looked out for me. However, by being in rain all day and freezing and this and that, I started to feel like I had a temperature. But when you go through OSUT training, you don't want to go to what we call sick call. You don't want to go to the doctor, you don't want to look weak. So I felt like I had a temperature, I was feeling sick, but I'm like, I ain't gonna go to sick call, I'm gonna tough it out. So a day goes by, I'm trying to tough it out, but I'm just feeling worse and worse. Trying to tough it out ends up putting me in a bad situation. Now I'm feeling extremely sick. Finally, I get to the point where I just can't take it no more, and I tell my drill sergeant, hey, drill sergeant, like, I'm super sick, I got a fever, like, I'm not feeling very good. And he, just by looking at me, could tell that I was extremely pale and I just wasn't looking good. I had other battle buddies telling me, hey bro, you're not looking well. So I told my drill sergeant, and he was like, all right, we're gonna take you to the doctor and see what's up. So my drill sergeant drives me to sick call, and I see a doctor, and they take my temperature, and my temperature is like 102.5. So the doctor's like, hey, drill sergeant, we're gonna keep him. He needs to get some bed rest. We're gonna take care of him. Check back with us in maybe 6 hours or so. So my drill sergeant takes off, and I get put in what they call the infirmary. It's basically a room with a bunch of beds with a bunch of sick soldiers. So the nurse gives me some medicine. I'm laying there. She basically tells me to like just rest, try to get some sleep, relax your body. We're here to take care of you. We want your stress level to be low. So just be at ease. If you need anything, let us know. So I end up going to sleep. Maybe 3 hours later, I wake up because I'm in like a puddle of sweat. And I'm like, oh shit. I felt super sick. I didn't even feel in my right mind. So I call for a nurse. Nurse comes, they take my temperature. It's went up to 103.9, I believe it was. So the nurse gets the doctor comes and sees me. The next thing they decide to do is take me to the emergency room. So I get to the emergency room, I'm super sick. I'm almost not even feeling human anymore because I'm feeling delusional and like something is seriously wrong with me. As soon as I get to the room that they're gonna have me in at the ER, a nurse comes in and she was like, I need you to go in the bathroom, take off all of your clothes. We're about to give you an ice bath. And even though I was super sick, I was like, what? Like take off all my clothes and get in ice water? And she was like, yes, that's what you're about to do right now. She's like, your temperature is so high that we need to cool you down. Straight up, I went to this bathtub, I got in it. They had cold water like running in it, and they were bringing ice and they were literally putting it in this bathtub trying to cool me down. I remember that bath being brutal, but once I got out, it did help me some. My temperature dropped some, and then they got me in a bed. That was like the first time since I was at infantry school where like I felt like I was being like catered to, or people were like taking care of me like personally. So yeah, the nurse came with like a menu and was like, anything on this menu you can order, you know, we'll get it made for you, we'll bring it, we need you to try to eat. We need you to keep staying hydrated, yada yada. My drill sergeant came, checked on me probably like 4 or 5 hours after I got to the ER, and they're like, there's just no way that he can go back to training. He needs some time in the hospital. He has pneumonia. So the next morning, my drill sergeant shows up, talks to the nurse, and was like, can we take him now? And she was like, no, like he needs to be here for a couple of days. And the drill sergeant tells her, and the conversation's happening right in front of me, so he tells her that if I miss any training, then I'm going to end up getting recycled. And you know, the last thing you want in training is to get recycled. If you don't know what recycled means, it basically is like where you get started over at the beginning because you missed too much training. Now this could have been a couple days after being at the hospital. It might not have been like the next day. I can't remember. This was back in like 2003. But my drill sergeant was saying that, you know, we had like weapons qualification and I had to qualify. And the nurse was like, well, you're either going to have to give him a little bit of slack or you're going to have to recycle him. But I just legally cannot let him out. He has such a temperature. And if you just look at him, I mean, I just looked really bad. I got super skinny over like a quick period, and I felt extremely weak. I didn't even feel like I could stand up at that point. So drill sergeant's like, all right, I'm gonna go talk to the commander. We'll come back and check on him and see how things are going in a couple hours. So probably like 4 or 5 hours later, the drill sergeant came back and was like, all right, so can we get him tomorrow morning? The nurse was like, we will try to get him in a position where you can take him tomorrow. Next morning rolls along, drill sergeant shows up. He was like, all right, can we get him? They didn't really advise it, but I was really pushing, hey, I do not want to get recycled, let me go. So they end up discharging me. I will never forget walking from the hospital to drill sergeant's truck. I could barely walk. It felt like my body was just gonna collapse. I was still sweating. I was not good enough to go out to training, but I was not about to get recycled. Literally, we went straight from the hospital to the range. I had to qualify with somebody else's weapon, and I felt super sick. I had spent no time shooting, practicing, but I was able to qualify and get through that portion of training, get a go at that station, and move on. In the military, it's difficult for so many reasons, okay? For me, for example, just being away from my family was difficult. You know, we're constantly out in the woods. We were going from base to train, going overseas. It's like you just have such a gap between you and your family that's just difficult, especially if you're like a family person like I was, you know, just wanting to spend a lot of your time with your family. It makes it hard just being away. Also, just coming straight from the streets into a military environment, it's a lot more strict. There's a lot more rules. I mean, you can't talk on your phone and walk. You can't walk in grass. You have to stay on the sidewalk. You can't chew bubble gum and walk. There's just lots of little rules that you have to deal with on a regular basis. But it's because they want you to be a professional. They train you to be a professional. As an infantryman, just your daily schedule is difficult, you know? You're getting up at 5:30 in the morning, and the first thing you're doing is going to work out. After you work out or do physical fitness, you come back, eat a little chow, and then you go straight to training. Train for a couple hours, have some more chow, go back to training. Come back, dinner chow, go back to training. So you might start a day at 05:30 and not be done till 2000. Times that by 5 days. My point is just the schedule and the level of professionalism that you have to keep at all times is just physically demanding, physically and mentally demanding. I'm gonna hit you with one more story from OSUT training. So one day we're gonna do the gas chamber. We show up at that location probably about 2 hours before we're gonna go through the actual gas chamber. The gas chamber in general was a difficult time. However, we're there an hour early, so the drill sergeants have time to kind of just pick on us. And Drill Sergeant Hill starts going around the formation, and he's kind of just making sure that everybody's shaved and they're wearing the proper equipment and they have their dog tags, their military ID, so on and so forth. So Drill Sergeant gets up to me, looks me over for a minute, and says, "Private Bites, why do you think that you're better than everybody?" And I was like, "Drill Sergeant, I definitely don't think that I'm better than anybody." And he was like, "Private Bites, why do you think that you are better than everybody?" That was a difficult situation to be put in because I didn't think that I gave off that kind of vibe. I had no idea what he was talking about, nor what did he want me to say. So I try to say Drill Sergeant, and before I can say that, he's like, "At ease, Private. Why do you think that you are better than everybody?" I didn't know what to say. I froze. I was just like, I was afraid. I was nervous. You know, I was fucking pretty much shaking. I'm not used to that kind of confrontation. Back on the block, if somebody approached me like that, we'd probably be boxing because I wasn't gonna let anyone talk to me like that. But when it's a drill sergeant, you know, that's just not how you operate. I'm trying to be a soldier and be better than I was back on the streets. So I knew that wasn't the move. So I brought up Banks in the last story. He says, "Banks, why does Bites think he's better than everybody? Take a look at him, Banks. Why is he better than everybody?" So at the time, Banks is like my squad leader. So Banks is looking at me. He's like, "Okay, you shaved, you have your dog tags, you have your ID." Like, he didn't know what to do. He didn't know what to say either. He's like, "Drill Sergeant, you know, I've got to know Private Bites for a long time, and he doesn't think he's better than people." So Drill Sergeant Hill's like, "Platoon, attention! Front line rest position, move! In cadence!" So now Drill Sergeant's about to start a smoking session with my platoon. When he put my platoon in the front leaning rest position, he told me to get up. and he made me look at the platoon while he was smoking them. He was making them do push-ups, and he was just making me watch. I've got no idea what I done wrong. I'm feeling bad now, and people are starting to get pissed at me, and it's just an overall shitty situation. Now he's about 5 minutes into this smoking session, and everyone's getting pissed. He's making them do push-ups, he's making them do overhead arm claps, he's making them do sit-ups. They're getting dirty, hot, sweaty, and I'm standing there watching, feeling super bad, and everyone's kind of under their breath like, fuck you, Bites, and I have no idea what I done. This smoke session goes on for like 10, 12 minutes, right? He eventually gets everybody up, lets them dust themselves off. He asked me again, why do I think I'm better than everybody? I'm like, Drill Sergeant, I don't have an answer for you. And then he looks at Banks and he was like, you're a squad leader, right? Banks is like, Roger. He's like, why is his last four, the last four of my social security number, not on his ProMass case? So this whole thing is over me not having a piece of tape with my last four of my social security number on the ProMass case. So the night prior, Banks was told to let his squad know that everybody needed to get this tape on their ProMass case with their last four. Well, when Banks gave those instructions, I was on flag detail. So I wasn't even in the barracks when this information was put out. So that's why I showed up without it on my ProMass case, because I had no fucking idea. But yeah, that's just difficult, mentally difficult. It's mentally draining getting put through that situation. You're watching your battle buddies get smoked, you're feeling bad, everyone's getting pissed. So the military is tough, you know. It's so unlike 99% of jobs. You're gonna just get put in such difficult situations. But what's badass is you have this group of people around you that are gonna help you fight through whatever the situation is. So when you're going through tough times, you have your battle buddies to lean on. I don't want this video to discourage anybody from joining, but you know, I'm just laying out some facts. The military is not gonna be just some fucking walk in the park. It's, you know, difficult. But if you think you're tough enough to handle it, step up or step aside. Anyway, if you're a veteran or you're currently serving, tell me about a difficult time that you've been through below. I'm trying to hear your stories. I'm trying to interact with the people that watch my videos. You know, that would make me personally feel good. I appreciate everybody that's been watching the channel, the support. It really means a lot to me. I hope this video finds you doing well. Take care.